There comes a moment in every seeker's life when knowing is no longer enough. You can understand the laws of the mind, the laws of resonance, the laws of cause and effect, and even the great truth of polarity, and still feel divided inside. Still feel torn between who you are, who you were, and who you hope to become. Understanding is the beginning, but integration is the transformation. The ancients knew this well. They taught that knowledge without practice becomes weight, a burden the mind cannot carry. But knowledge lived, embodied, and breathed becomes alchemy. It turns the scattered pieces of a human being into a single, unified presence. This was the hidden work of the mystery schools, not to fill the mind with information, but to gather the soul into wholeness. They called it the great work, the sacred art of inner integration. To integrate is to bring home the parts of yourself that were left behind, the fears you buried, the dreams you abandoned, the memories you rejected, the shadows you tried to outrun. Integration is the return, not to perfection, but to completeness. In Hermetic philosophy, the self is not a fixed entity. It is a constellation of states, emotions, beliefs, and potentials that constantly shift along the spectrum of polarity. You are calm one day, restless the next, inspired one hour, discouraged the next. Stillness and chaos, light and shadow, all of them live inside you. Integration does not ask you to erase any of them. It asks you to understand them, to raise their vibration, and to unite them into a higher harmony. Imagine your inner world as an orchestra. Each emotion is an instrument. Each belief is a note. Each memory is a rhythm. Most people live with their orchestra playing out of tune. Some instruments too loud, others unheard, each pulling in a different direction. Integration is not about silencing any part of yourself. It is about tuning the entire ensemble to the same frequency, so your life becomes a single, coherent melody. This process begins with awareness. You cannot integrate what you refuse to see. The shadows you ignore do not disappear. They shape you from the dark. The Hermetic masters taught that every emotion holds a message. Every fear holds a key. Every wound holds a treasure. Nothing inside you is useless. Nothing is unworthy. Nothing is without purpose. The lower parts of you are simply vibrations waiting to be raised. Integration is the art of lifting every part of yourself to a higher octave. In the temples of Egypt, initiates were guided through the shadows of their own minds. They were asked to confront not demons, but reflections, the rejected fragments of their own nature. The rites did not aim to destroy the shadow, but to understand it, to reclaim it, to bring it back into the circle of the self. Only then could the initiate rise into the light unburdened. What we call trauma today, they called fragmentation. The soul splitting into pieces to survive experiences it could not yet integrate. But what breaks you in one season becomes the material you are meant to reclaim in another. Integration is the return to wholeness. Modern psychology confirms what the ancients already knew, that buried emotions do not fade, they wait. That unresolved patterns repeat until understood. That the mind cannot find peace until it embraces the full spectrum of its own experience. The Hermetic principle, as within, so without, applies here more than anywhere. Your outer life mirrors your inner fragmentation, and your inner harmony shapes your outer world. Integration requires courage, because it asks you to meet yourself without mask or story, to sit in silence with the parts of you that hurt, to speak honestly with the fears that run beneath your thoughts, to feel the emotions that never found a voice. But in this confrontation, something extraordinary happens. The very act of seeing begins to heal. Awareness is the alchemist's fire, the gentle flame that purifies without burning. When you bring awareness to fear, it becomes clarity. When you bring awareness to anger, it becomes boundary. When you bring awareness to sadness, it becomes wisdom. Nothing survives the light of understanding unchanged. The Hermetic texts teach that transformation is not about replacing darkness with light. It is about raising the dark to the frequency of light. This is why the ancient symbol of alchemy is not the destruction of lead, but its refinement, its transmutation into gold. Integration is the inner alchemy that turns your leaden wounds into golden presents. You integrate when you stop running from your own inner world. You integrate when you accept that every part of you, even the ones you dislike, belongs to the same sacred whole. You integrate when you stop fighting yourself and begin listening instead. You integrate when your outer life stops being an escape and becomes an expression of who you truly are. As you walk this hidden path, you may notice moments when something clicks inside you. A thought that once triggered fear now brings curiosity. A memory that once caused pain now brings understanding. A pattern that once controlled you now loses its power. These are signs that the inner self is reuniting, note by note, piece by piece. Integration is not a straight line. It is a spiral. You revisit old emotions, but from a higher vantage point. You confront familiar fears, but with greater strength. You meet the same lessons, but with deeper wisdom. This spiral is not failure. It is mastery unfolding. The Hermetic masters believe that integration leads to a profound shift. The unification of the lower self with the higher self. The lower self is instinct, reactive, emotional, survival-driven. The higher self is perspective, calm, intuitive, connected to the divine. Integration does not silence the lower self. It brings it under the guidance of the higher one. When the two move together, life becomes aligned. This is the secret behind the ancient phrase, know thyself. It does not mean to analyze endlessly. It means to integrate fully, to become whole, to bring together the thinking mind, the feeling heart, the intuitive spirit, and the silent awareness behind them all. In this unity, you become coherent. In coherence, you become powerful. And in power, you become free. Once integrated, your inner world stops contradicting itself. Your mind and heart speak the same language. Your intuition and logic work as one. Your past no longer drags you backward, and your future no longer pulls you away from the present. You begin to move with life, not against it. Integration is the moment when the inner orchestra plays its first true harmony. The Egyptians symbolized this through the scarab, the beetle that rolls darkness into light, transforming the earth beneath it into life. The scarab does not destroy the darkness. It elevates it. This is the alchemy of the inner self. When you integrate, you reclaim energy that once leaked through fear, conflict, or avoidance. Suddenly, you have more focus, more clarity, more peace, more presence. You feel grounded yet expansive, soft yet strong. You stop reacting and begin responding. You stop seeking and begin expressing. You stop surviving and begin living. But the deepest secret of integration is this: there is no part of you that is against you. Even your shadows are trying to protect you in the only ways they know. When you understand this, the war ends. You become your own ally, your own sanctuary, your own source of light, and that is when life begins to mirror your new state. Opportunities appear, relationships deepen, intuition strengthens, external conflicts dissolve, because the outer world always reflects the inner one. Integration is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of your true path, the path where you no longer chase transformation because you have become its embodiment, the path where your life becomes aligned with your essence, the path where the soul leads and the mind follows in peace. And once you taste this wholeness, there is no going back, because you finally understand what the Hermetic masters whispered for thousands of years. The kingdom of heaven is within you, not as metaphor, as literal inner alignment. If you've begun to feel the alchemy inside you, the union of your own light and shadow, don't miss the next episode, The Mirror of the Soul, Seeing Yourself Through the Eyes of the Divine.